Why men leave the woman they love and regret it later. CARL Jung. Sometimes the greatest pain comes not from rejection, but from abandonment by someone who once claimed to love you. And maybe you've lived this story. Maybe you're living it now. The late-night talks, the promises. The look in his eyes when he whispered that he'd never leave, only to disappear when you least expected. And now you're left with questions that seem to have no answer. How could he walk away? How does a man leave someone he loves? Was it all a lie? But here's a truth that few dare to tell. Love is not the only force that determines whether a man stays. In fact, sometimes love is what drives him away. Not because it isn't real, not because it wasn't enough, but because it was too much. Too deep, too intimate, too honest, and it demanded something from him that he was not yet ready to give, the courage to face himself. You see, CARL Jung taught that within each of us lives a shadow, a hidden self, composed of all we have repressed, denied, and feared. For many men, that shadow is vast. Years of unspoken emotions, buried fears of failure, guilt, shame, insecurity, and for most of their lives, they learn to suppress it, to wear a mask of control, of strength, of certainty, to perform. But love, real love, strips that mask away. Because to truly love is to be seen. And when a woman begins to see through the cracks, when her love reaches those hidden places he's tried so hard to bury, panic sets in. Not because she's done anything wrong, but because her presence is forcing him to confront the very parts of himself he has spent a lifetime avoiding. In the beginning, it feels beautiful, liberating. He feels alive with her. He tells her things he's never shared before. He allows himself to hope for something deeper. But as the relationship grows, so does the pressure within. He senses that she will soon see all of him, not just the charming facade, not just the good days, but the broken parts. The boy who still carries wounds from long ago. The man who doubts his own worthiness, and suddenly, 'tis too much. The closer she comes to his heart, the more exposed he feels, the more unworthy, the more terrified that if she truly sees him, she will leave. So what does he do? He leaves. First, convinced that by doing so, he can protect himself from the pain he imagines is inevitable. And here is the irony. It is not her judgment he fears, it is his own. Because deep inside, he does not believe he is worthy of her love. He cannot yet accept the depth of what she offers. And so, rather than risk the humiliation of failing her, he creates the failure himself. He pulls away, withdraws emotionally, creates distance. Until one day, the space between them is no longer bridge, able, and then he's gone. For the woman left behind, it is devastating. Not just because of the loss, but because it makes no sense. He said he loved her. He showed it. He planned a future, so why would he leave? And this is where self-blame often creeps in. She questions her worth. She replays every conversation, looking for the fatal flaw. She wonders if she was too much or not enough. But the truth is far simpler and far more painful. It was not her. It was never her. It was the battle within him, the unhealed wounds, the unspoken fears, the inability to face the parts of himself that her love was awakening. And here's what CARL Jung's teachings reveal. Until a man makes peace with his unconscious, until he integrates his shadow, he cannot sustain deep intimacy, because love is not simply a feeling. It is an invitation to transformation. And for a man who has not yet done the inner work, that invitation feels threatening because it requires surrender, vulnerability, humility, and a willingness to face one's deepest insecurities. This is why so many men, even those who love deeply, leave. Not because the love wasn't real, but because the work it asked of them was too great, and so they run. Not just from her, but from themselves, from the mirror she held up to their soul. But here's what happens next, and why so. Many eventually regret it. Time passes. And in the quiet moments when the noise of distraction fades, he remembers the softness of her presence, the way she made him feel seen and still loved, the way her acceptance touched places he didn't even know were longing to be healed, and regret creeps in. Because once you have tasted that depth of connection, once you have known a love that reaches the soul, nothing else feels the same. No casual encounter, no shallow affection, no temporary thrill, but by the time this realization dawns, she has often moved on. Not because she stopped loving, but because she had to choose herself. Because waiting for a man to confront his shadows is a path of endless suffering, and so she learns painfully, but powerfully, that her worth is not defined by whether he stayed. That she deserves a love that does not run, a love that stands, a love that grows. And here is what every word woman must know. If he left you, it was not your failure. His regret, if it comes, is his to carry. His healing, if it happens, is his to choose. And your path is forward, not back, because sometimes the greatest act of love is to let go, not in bitterness, but in wisdom. In compassion for him and for yourself, knowing that the man who could not stay was simply not yet ready for the kind of love you were offering, and knowing, above all, that you are worthy of the love that will stay, the love that will meet you fully. And if you truly want to understand yourself and your relationships at the deepest level, I highly recommend the Jung method, a powerful guide that helps you uncover unconscious patterns, heal emotional wounds, and transform your inner world. You'll find the link pinned in the first comment. Now, let's go deeper, because the real question is not only why did he leave, but also why does he regret it so deeply later? At first, he won't tell himself this. In fact, he'll often tell himself the opposite, that leaving was right, that it was for the best, that now he is free. And maybe, for a while, it even feels that way. He distracts. He throws himself into work. He reconnects with friends. He seeks out surface-level experiences that require no emotional depth. But this is only the surface. Because when a man has touched real love and walked away, something inside begins to change. CARL Jung spoke of this, that the unconscious holds all that we repress, but it does not forget. It waits, and it whispers in the quiet. For a while, the distractions work. But life has a way of creating space, and in those spaces, the truth seeps in. A song, a place you once visited together, a random memory triggered by a scent or a phrase. And in those moments, the heart remembers, not just the warmth of your touch, but the way your presence made him feel seen, accepted, safe. And that is something rare. Because in a world that teaches men to perform, to suppress, to guard their hearts, very few women reach that depth with them. And once they do, it changes a man, even if he doesn't understand it yet. But this remembering does not bring him peace. It brings longing, and with longing comes regret, because now, in hindsight, he starts to see that what he had with you was not ordinary, that your love touched parts of him that no one else had, that your acceptance offered him a path to healing, a path he was too afraid to walk at the time, and the weight of this grows. Not all at once, but slowly, he begins to compare. The new connections feel shallow. The freedom he thought he wanted feels empty. And more than that, he begins to realize what he cost himself. Not just a relationship, but a chance at becoming the man he truly could have been by your side. This is why regret hits so hard. Not because of ego, not even because of loneliness, but because on a deeper level, he knows. He left because of fear, because of unhealed wounds, because he wasn't ready to receive what you were offering. And that knowing is not easy to carry. Carl Jung taught that what we refuse to face will return to us as fate. And for many men, the regret of leaving the woman they loved becomes exactly that, a haunting thread that weaves through future relationships. A silent ache they cannot explain. Now, here's where you must be wise, because sometimes he will come back. You'll receive a message, a call, an apology, sometimes sincere, sometimes desperate, sometimes driven more by guilt than by genuine change. And this is where many women face their greatest test. Do I take him back? Has he really changed? Is this regret, or is this growth? Because there is a difference. Regret alone is not enough. Regret without healing will only repeat the old cycle. And as Jung taught, unless a man has brought the unconscious into consciousness, unless he has done the deep inner work, he cannot create a new outcome. So how do you know? Look not at his words, but at his actions. Has he faced his fears? Has he taken responsibility not just for leaving, but for why he left? Has he done the work to integrate his shadow so that he can now meet you as an equal? Or is he still seeking comfort without transformation? If the latter, you must have the strength to let go, to honor what you had, but to protect what you've become. Because here's the truth. You must hold. When he left, it hurt. But in that leaving, you grew. You faced your own shadows. You rebuilt yourself. You learned that your worth is not tied to who stays or goes, and now you are no longer the woman he left. You are stronger, wiser, more whole, and sometimes the greatest love is not in reunion, but in release, in choosing yourself, in honoring the woman you've become, in knowing that some journeys are not meant to circle back. Because here is the truth. If he truly loves you and has truly changed, he will understand this. He will respect your growth. He will not pressure. He will not guilt. He will meet you in your sovereignty, or not at all. And if he hasn't changed, if the regret is still laced with fear, then your path is clear. You continue forward, in your light, in your truth. Because sometimes loving someone means knowing when to walk away, even when they come back, even when they say all the right things. Because you are no longer that woman waiting to be chosen. You are the woman who chooses herself. So if today you are still holding that question, does he regret leaving? Know this. Perhaps he does. Perhaps he always will. But that is his journey, and yours is to live fully, bravely. Because the greatest gift you can give yourself now is not his return. It is your own freedom, your own joy, your own wholeness. And in that space, if love is to find you again, it will be a love that stays. Love that meets you in all that you are